You ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 182. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us at the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, you can hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, it has been another week. What is going on, my brother?
Well, love and life. That's what's going on.
Nice.
Sadly, we had to say goodbye to my sister. She's been here for like 3.5 weeks now. And
she's going back to the old UK?
Back to the old Utah.
I thought she was from the UK. Don't you have a sister in the UK right now?
Yeah.
Not the same sister?
No. I have 3 younger sisters, and this is my youngest sister. She's like 22.
Is this the one that Mama Shaw loves the best?
No.
Okay.
Mama Shaw has no favorites.
I don't buy that for a New York minute.
Neither do I, but...
Right.
But no, this is my sister. She's in college.
Gotcha.
And just came down to hang out since nothing was happening. So that was sad. When Emmy says goodbye to people that she really likes, she gets mad when they leave. Like, there's none of this sad, like, oh, I'm going to miss you. It's like, no, I'm not going to miss you, and I hate you. It's like her defense mechanism kind of a thing. I don't know where she learned that or what that's all about, but she does that every time people leave. She just gets like really mad, and then she'll cry when they leave, and she'll like look out the window and just be crying. So she was really mad that Mary was leaving. But it was funny when I asked her yesterday. I said, "Oh, Mary or Emmy, are you gonna be sad that Mary's leaving?" And she's like, "No, I don't like sharing a bathroom." I was like, "What? What?"
Oh, that's funny.
3 years old. She's something else, that girl. I do want to report that we did go and see the movie Valley Girl. I know that everyone has been waiting and anticipating my full review.
And
it's terrible in all the ways you expect those kinds of movies to be, but entertaining and fun in the same way you expect those movies to be. Just ridiculous, over the top, like... It was interesting because it felt very current generation with the people they chose to be in the movie. Like, there were people that probably you wouldn't recognize from, like, YouTube and kind of that subculture of YouTube and Reddit. Okay. And, I mean, Jesse had no freaking clue who anybody was in this movie. And I was like, oh, it's him. Oh, it's him. I know him. I know her. So it was interesting. Gotcha. Definitely appealing toward a younger... demographic, younger than me, definitely appealing to younger than me. I just know who they are because I watch so much YouTube and I subscribe to so many channels, but I don't watch any of the people that were in it. Anyways, it was interesting to kind of see what their strategy was with it. It was fun. And it was fun to get out and go to a movie. We were the only people in the theater, which was cool.
Really?
We got our popcorn. Well, it was like a Wednesday at 1:45.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was just us. It was
so
perfect.
Even if COVID wasn't the thing, it still could have just been the two of you.
Yeah, probably would have been just the two of us. But it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Would you be making sandcastles in the sky?
Oh, man. So,
I'm sorry.
Anyway, moving on. I've begun painting the little theater room. So I painted my little closet office, as you saw, Spencer.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that last week in the podcast. And then today I started painting our little theater room, just because it's like this, right now it's just this kind of tan color that the previous owners of the house had, kind of all around. We had somebody come in and paint most of the house except for like a couple of the bedrooms, but everything else got painted. Anyway, so I thought I'm just going to paint this because I can't stand how stupid this looks in a theater room. Theater rooms need to have dark walls.
Yeah.
So I busted out the paint this afternoon and spent a couple of hours painting it. Almost got it all done. Just got to take the TV down and paint behind it, and then I'll be done. So that was good, trying to be productive. And then, the only other thing that is worth note is I know you're a huge horror fan. And
absolutely. It's my favorite.
So my sister, actually all my sisters really like scary movies. We just like scary movies in our family. My whole family likes them. And so I had to take advantage of having my sister here to actually watch scary movies, because usually I watch them by myself because Jessie wants nothing to do with it unless it's M. Night. That's the only one that she'll watch. Gotcha. And so we watched the Insidious movies. I don't know if you've heard about those movies. They're fantastic. It's such a scary, they made 4 of them. And there's a 5th one in development right now. So as far as horror movies go, big success. And anybody out there who likes scary movies knows what I'm talking about. So it was terrifying. We watched the 3rd one last night, and it was a huge mistake. I slept with the bathroom light on, and then a light on outside our bedroom and cracked it open.
Why do this to yourself?
It's why go on roller coasters? It's the same feeling of this adrenaline rush of out of control and you don't know what's going on. I love it, man.
A roller coaster is a thrill ride. It's designed to be exciting. A horror movie is meant to scare the living bejesus out of you and make you poop your pants. I have never pooped my pants or felt scared on a roller coaster.
You've never felt scared on a roller coaster, dude.
No.
The anticipation of going on Tower of Terror, it's absolutely, my heart rate triples from my normal heart rate when I'm waiting in line for that ride.
I'm excited.
No.
I'm excited for that.
I'm not.
And I have fun. And I enjoy it, but I'm not ever scared because I know that if I've been standing in line for 2 hours and I've watched every single person that went in before me come back out, I know I'm not going to die. B, I work for a company that makes amusement rides, and I know the level of security, safety that goes into these things. So inherently, I know that at no point ever in the ride are you ever going to be in any possible danger. It's all in your head, and they want you to think you are, but you're never in any danger.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. They're the same. Scary movies and thrill ride seekers. It's the adrenaline rush. And I don't like getting my adrenaline rush from roller coasters. I just don't like it. I hate it, actually. I get terrified. I don't like heights. I don't know why I go even on something like Tower of Terror. Tower of Terror is the top of my terror. I won't go on anything more intense or scary than that. I won't do it. Dude, at Disneyland at DCA, you know that Golden Zephyr ride?
Yeah.
When we went to Disneyland for Halloween that one time as a family, and it was me and our father-in-law in the same little Zephyr, I literally had a panic attack because it was too high. I ducked down, closed my eyes, and Chip was just laughing at me. And I can't do it. So for me, it's we're the opposite, right? You'll go on the thrill rides, and you won't catch me on them. You will not. Like Mickey's Fun Wheel of Death. I call it Mickey's Hell Wheel at DCA. I will never go on that. But I'll do scary movies in a heartbeat.
Would you ever jump out of an airplane?
No chance. Absolutely not. I don't even like looking out of the window on an airplane. I get sick.
I totally would be in for skydiving.
Oh, gosh.
I totally would be in for that. So that stuff doesn't bother me. But you show me disturbing images that are meant to play on your, I don't know, your emotions and make you feel mentally disturbed and that stuff. I'm that's the devil. Keep it away from me. I don't want that. But you can't tell me that the devil is in Mickey's Ferris wheel.
Yeah, it's called Mickey's Hell Wheel or whatever I call it. I mean, it's the same freaking thing. Yeah. Anyway,
I love it.
Long story short,
it.
I got to enjoy that, and then I think we mentioned this earlier. I watched it yesterday, and I know you watched it today. The Community table read of season 5, episode 4, cooperative polygraphy, however you want to say it, and that was
so much fun.
That was great. We'll have more to say about Community soon.
Yes. I did see that as well, and then we watched the little after show thing with it. I am of the opinion that I could listen to that cast just tell stories from on set for days on end.
Absolutely.
I mean, just days on end. But I don't think we're going to get that. So I had a pretty good week. I obviously finished watching The Last Dance this weekend, the 10-part documentary on the 98 Bulls and on Michael Jordan. I mean, as well, it's pretty much Michael Jordan and the 98 Bulls. Watched that. That was a lot of good fun, a lot of good reminiscing for me. I grew up in Chicago during that era. I will say there wasn't a lot that I learned from this documentary, but it just was kind of nice to see a lot of it again. Maybe a few small little things, but all the big stuff that people would be talking about it the next day, week after week. I was like, yeah, I lived this. Like I remember all of this. So, but it was fun to kind of take that trip down memory lane and look at the greatest of all time once again. Been watching The Mandalorian with the boys. Did I tell you about that already?
Oh yeah.
We've watched the first 6 episodes now. So we still have episode 7 and episode 8. But like the boys are at this really weird place where they say they don't want to watch The Mandalorian. They want to watch other stuff. And they'll say they don't want to watch it right up until when we turn it on. And then once we turn it on, they're hooked. And then as soon as that episode's over, if it's bedtime, we tell them we have to turn it off. They keep saying, let's just watch one more. Let's just watch one more. So it's this really kind of weird thing where like they don't, and then they totally do.
Right.
So I don't know what that's all about. The big thing I'd say this week for me was I have been streaming Final Fantasy VII Remake pretty regularly, and I streamed it quite a bit over the weekend. I'm probably, I want to say maybe like 14 hours into the game now, and I'm in chapter 8, and it's really, really interesting because I've played the original, which the original, you can beat that game in maybe 40, 50 hours if you're just kind of mainlining the game, but I've put upwards of little over 100 hours into that game on almost every playthrough because I want to do all the little side things and unlock all the stuff and see all the things and get all the little extra small kind of subplots and optional bosses and whatnot. So I'm playing this one, Matt, and first of all, it is gorgeous. Just gorgeous to behold. And then on top of that, the music... The music in the original was really, really revolutionary for the time. What was done with the limited MIDI tones that could be used back then to get this very orchestral feel, even back in like 1997, is amazing. But to hear it fully fleshed out now, ooh, it is so good. Like it just makes my heart happy. Just listening to the music. So I kind of had that going on. In the background playing like during the workday and stuff.
Yeah.
But man, this game, I'm loving it. I ended up stopping streaming the other night and I was on this kind of optional part. And I don't have to do it, but of course I'm going to do it because the completionist in me is going to make me do it. And I was trying to finish it up. It was like right at the end of my stream. And I just couldn't get past this fight that I was trying to do, and I was getting real close. But the closer I'd get to beating this, finishing this fight, I'd stop kind of paying attention to all the things I needed to, and would kind of like drop my strategy a little bit and go back just to the kind of hack and slash strategy because I was so close to the end. And of course, it's like my undoing. And so I may go back like tonight or maybe tomorrow before I stream and just pass that one part so then I can pick up the stream again and keep going forward.
Yeah.
But it is cool to see how they're hitting all the story beats and all the things that I already know while still fleshing out this world, adding in new things. It's been a lot of fun. Like, I've really, really, really enjoyed my time in it so far.
Nice.
You and I just talked about the community table read thing. I'm still playing Animal Crossing, although I'm going to admit that's slowed down a little bit. Partially because I need to figure out what's the next step on my island for kind of like how I want to redo some of it.
Right.
And I'm not quite sure, but I've been kind of working on some of that. Also, like, I'm not feeling the rush to make money anymore in it.
Not at all.
As I have over 63 million bells sitting in the bank.
Jeez.
Even this weekend, I was like, I'm just going to buy a bag or two. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to buy a bag or two. And I'll just play the stock market straight up. I won't really, like, try to, work with...
Travel around and get us...
Yeah, travel around and do all that. And then today, someone in the Married to the Games community says, hey, I'm selling turnips on my island right now for 600 bells.
Oh, my gosh.
A turnip. And I was like, check, please.
Yeah.
And so I flew over there with my 2 bags of turnips and sold them. And so, like, I made something like 800,000 bells turn into about 5 million.
Jeez.
So it was, just to add to my pot just a little bit more. At this point, though, Matt, I really feel like I've got to hit 100 million bells.
Do it.
I feel like I've got to just keep going and
freaking.
I'm not going to go crazy, but like, just my wife keeps asking me. She says, "Why? Why? You're never going to spend all that." I'm like, I don't know, but the compulsion to do this is just there.
Yeah.
But that's been fun. And then, of course, we're still watching The Office, and we've been doing that. But today we took the boys over to the elementary school for the first time since we've been home, so we could drop off all the library books and turn in all the little things that still needed to be turned in. And then they got to see their teachers and pick up a bag to take home with them for the summer that had stuff that was in their desks, stuff that they'd been working on, like Jackson, my youngest, who's in kindergarten. His teacher does this like whole, what do you call it? Scrapbook for each one of the kids in her class with all these pictures and like poems and things they drew.
Nice.
Like it's pretty crazy. But then she also puts in a picture for their birthday, like what they did on their birthday in school. But Jackson didn't get to have that. He was home, and we did the whole drive-by thing.
Right.
But his teacher actually drove by and brought him a little book on his birthday and waved. And so she took pictures from that, and she included that on his birthday page, and it was a lot of fun. So I just want to say, personally from me, a big thank you to all the teachers at Antelope Elementary here, where we live, that went out of their way, and I'll add this, to all teachers everywhere. But the special one right now is to this one's with my kids' school, but to all teachers everywhere, for the hard work that you put in during this time of remote learning, whether that was putting together videos on YouTube, whether that was doing Zoom calls, whether that was setting up like little websites where you can have your students log in and leave you messages and do all this extra work to figure out a way to help continue to educate my children and everyone else's children during this strange time that we're in. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's very appreciated from us here at the Fortress of Nerditude. And I just want to say thank you very much. We love all your effort and hard work, and we couldn't have got through this without you.
Amen.
And that, Matt, was my week.
Love it.
What do you say we get this party rolling tonight by rolling some Bothan heads down the road?
Oh my goodness, sounds great.
Let's kill them Bothans. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you boffins.
All right, Matt, it is Rebel Intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
All right, so let's start out with Comic-Con.
Okay.
The Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, let's not get into that again.
So we've got some. It's interesting news, we'll say. So
Okay.
San Diego Comic-Con, we know, got canceled this year.
Yes.
So what,
Sadly.
Yes, very sadly. But what they're going to do is they're going to host what's called Comic-Con at Home with a little @ symbol to symbolize it's going to be on the internet. And it's kind of, right now it is unclear as to what this digital event is going to look like. If we're going to have panels kind of in like a Zoom call that we'll be able to like link into somehow. So it's unclear how they're going to do it. But the interesting thing is that they're still going to try it. They reiterated that this will not be the new normal. I think that there are a lot of conventions where I think digital events will be the new normal. I think they're maybe realizing this is a lot of money to rent the space out and to fly these people out. Like, why do that when we can do it online and everyone is doing it online anyway? So the interesting thing, so they said this is not going to be the new normal. And to me, that makes sense. So I have two questions for you with this information.
Okay.
One of them is, why do you think this won't be the new normal for Comic-Con?
Okay.
And then the second question is, how successful do you see a digital event being this year?
Okay. So let's go to your first question, which was why this won't be the new normal.
Why not do a digital every year?
Super easy answer. It's all about money.
Okay. Because
you got to look at this. So money and hubris, maybe clout.
Okay.
No hubris. San Diego Comic-Con is like the largest convention in the United States. I'm not going to say the world because I don't actually know like
what's going on in
numbers.
India.
Yeah, there could
China,
be something in
who knows?
Dubai that's massively huge or listen to me, massively huger. It could be larger.
Okay.
So, but in the States, definitely San Diego Comic-Con is the big one. You've got Hall H, these big, huge panels. They get all these, actors and actresses and directors and producers that'll come in. And it's become this big cultural event that is a place to relive past franchises, past fandoms, but it's also a place where they make big announcements. So TV has something called the upfronts, where they kind of show off all the new shows that are coming in the next year. Comic-Con really has become that for a lot of big movies and big fandom tentpole events, right? So Marvel, Disney go down there and they have a panel for a Star Wars something or another. And then, by the way, we're going to show off a 2-minute trailer for the new Star Wars movie or the new Marvel movie or the new whatever. Pick your thing. Now, you can make the argument that, yes, it costs money to rent that out, the hall out. It costs money to rent the convention center. It costs money to book all these guests and get all these people and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? However, these conventions also bring in, the city wants them because they bring in a ton of tax dollars because people fly in from all over the world, all over the United States. They book hotels. They purchase the tickets just to get into the convention. They'll pay upgrades to get, faster through the lines and up closer to the seats. They'll buy all sorts of merchandise. They'll buy all sorts of food while they're there. It's a huge, huge, huge money-making event. Plus, they have this huge convention floor, this vendor floor that they rent booth space out to. So if you want to see your favorite cosplayer in his or her outfits, signing his or her autographs, whatever, they pay a certain amount of money just to be there so that they can make your money for that autograph or that photo, and vendors that make these. So they don't want to lose that money. Going digital, while yes, it's convenient to do that right now, the city of San Diego is going to lose a lot of money.
Right.
The convention's going to lose a lot of money going this way. And they want to keep themselves as the premier event. So they want to get back to how it was before when they're riding high. If they were to go all digital and stay all digital for a few years and then try to go back to the way it was, too many other conventions or too many other companies like Marvel, Disney, like DC are going to say, well, we're not going to the convention. Why not just make this announcement on our own platform somewhere? And why not do it something so we have that vertical integration? It's business. Right. It's all money. So that's question 1. And I totally forgot what was question 2.
So did I.
Question 2?
Good question. Or good answer.
That's what it is. Do I think it'll work? I think that was your second question.
Do you think this year that it'll work?
I think it'll be fine. I mean, let's be honest. I've wanted to go to San Diego Comic-Con for years and years and years, but I've never really wanted to pay the money to buy tickets, to fly down there or drive down there, get a hotel there.
Right.
Kind of do all the things. And so usually I have to find out all my information from the internet, watching live streams. And I think right now, so many big companies, so many media outlets have been figuring out how to do this whole, work remotely, show off content remotely, that if all of a sudden now we're having a panel and it's on Zoom and it's the cast of Black Panther and they're to talk about, working on Black Panther, and they're also going to talk about Black Panther 2 or whatever, and it's a Marvel, a Marvel Disney panel, they're going to be able to figure out how to do that over Zoom or over Skype or, Hangouts or whatever, and they're going to show off their same stuff. So it works out well for the consumer. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll work, but I don't think it's going to be the new normal for them because they want that revenue. They want that money.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree.
So, yeah, there's that. Okay. I'm going to start off with some Star Trek news, which leaves you a little out in the dark
love
for the
Star
moment.
Trek.
We're going to get you there. So, it was announced just a little earlier this week, a couple days ago, that we're getting another Star Trek spinoff. So you got to remember that Star Trek Discovery was the first show of kind of like this new batch of Star Trek shows, and it did really, really well. So they greenlit it. This is on CBS All Access. They greenlit it for a second season. They said they're going to do a spinoff off of what's her character? I'm going to blank it right now. Captain Philippa Georgiou. And it's going to be like the Sector 31 or whatever. Then they did a Picard show. They're now going to do another spin-off based from Discovery, and it's going to follow Captain Pike and Spock and Number One, and these were the characters that were on the original USS Enterprise before Kirk takes over. And they're not being completely clear with, does this take place before or after they interact with the USS Discovery in the timeline, but it is the same actors and actresses, so it's Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, and Rebecca Romaine. It's going to kind of take place in the same world, it's going to be the same thing, but they can't call the show Star Trek Enterprise because, they have Star Trek Discovery, and then they got Picard, and they could go Star Trek Enterprise, except they already had a show called Star Trek Enterprise in the early 2000s. So this one's going to be called Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is fine. Like, that hits me, and I'm kind of like, okay. Seek out new life and new civilizations, that sort of whole strange new worlds. Like, that fits the theme of kind of Star Trek, but it doesn't have the sound of like Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek The Next Generation. Like it's just, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, it's missing that real oomph feel. But we'll have to see what happens. I'm excited. I think these characters were really well done. And more Star Trek right now, I think, is a good thing, because Star Trek that's coming out right now is good. And it is worth watching.
So I was just thinking about this as you mentioned a spinoff here. Is there a network that does more spinoffs than CBS? Just off the top of my head, I can't think of it. I feel like there's always...
Like, how many CSI shows are there? Yeah,
and then you've got Young Sheldon, and then you've got all of the different Star Treks now on top of that. Or here, this will expose me. CBS is the safest network that takes the fewest risks in the United States. There's no risk whatsoever, and they're freaking rich.
They make a lot of money on their shows. Think about it. Like, think of all the shows. Even if you didn't watch them. Like, we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about 2.5 Men.
Yep.
Right? And how that ended horribly. But that show was massive.
Huge.
King of Queens.
Yep.
I've never watched a minute of this show, King of Queens.
No.
But it was huge. Everyone Loves Raymond.
Yep.
Like all these shows you think of, like the CSIs and the CSI Miamis and New Yorks and whatever, and Blue Bloods and the Big Bang Theory. Like they have put out a lot of safe shows. They're shows that aren't really edgy, but they're hitting a big, huge, wide market.
Yes.
The people who want something that's entertaining, but is not necessarily going to push them in one direction or another.
Yeah.
And some of those shows may not be very political, so it's not going to push people politically one way or another. It's not going to do super edgy anything, and people feel like they can just kind of tune in and tune out.
Agreed. Which is what I don't like in TV.
But Star Trek's not that way.
I hope that's true. I think maybe that's why I'm turned off, is because I just hate CBS so much. I get just annoyed with them and their shows that I just don't know. The only show, How I Met Your Mother, is the exception to that.
Yeah.
And I still didn't join that until about 4 or 5 seasons in, and then I caught up. But anyway, neither here nor there.
if it helps you, Matt, Star Trek, the original series, was on NBC.
Well, that does help me. That gives me hope.
Star Trek The Next Generation was on UPN. That was actually like a syndicated show.
Interesting.
Like it was sold as syndication. It was not on the major network. Same thing with Deep Space Nine. Same thing, I think, with Discovery or Voyager. It really wasn't until I think CBS acquired kind of the UPN, which kind of transitioned into what became the WB, which then I think became the CW, like that kind of whole thing.
Yes.
I think once CBS kind of got in the picture, then they're like, okay, let's take all the good things and move them over to CBS, and everything else, we'll kind of keep under the CW, WB, UPN kind of that whole side of things.
Speaking of the CW, that's my next.
Ooh, look at you, Mr. Transition.
I wasn't going to do this one next, but now I am. So the CW has announced or claims that they are going to air full seasons, full orders of their shows for 2021. So there's no shortened schedules. I mean, it will still be a little short schedule for the actors and those directing and filming and editing, but they are expected to have full episode orders for their shows. So if you've got a show that's got 20 to 25 episodes, expect that. If you've got a 13 episode show, expect that. So anything that's on the CW, expect it to have its full run of fall of 2021, which to me is great news. I don't watch any of the superhero stuff, but I like Riverdale, and Riverdale's getting their full season, which makes me happy.
I watched probably the first 2, maybe 3 seasons of CW's Arrow.
Oh, yeah. It got really dramatic. I did that too.
Yeah, my wife and I were watching it. Maybe I was like on Netflix because we weren't caught up. And I remember like watching it, and I just remember I got to a point where, for some reason, I don't know that we got tired of it, but like we just like put it down so we could watch something else for a little bit to kind of like shake it up.
Yeah.
And like we never went back, but we did go and watch The Flash. And I'm about a season and a half behind now.
Okay.
But I do want to get back to that. I've really enjoyed The Flash, but all the Supergirl, the Legends of Tomorrow, for some reason, like, it's kind of like, well, maybe, but I just haven't got there.
No, I think you have to embrace the CW to fully appreciate what you're going to be offered. I'm so used to Marvel and the quality, and it's not to say the CW doesn't do quality, because they do for me with Riverdale, but the superhero stuff, I had the same thing. I watched Arrow for the first couple of seasons, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And then I just fell off because it got either repetitive or overly CW, meaning the drama was so high, and I don't care about drama unless it's high school drama. Then you can count me the freak in. Give me more of those high school kids, man, doing stupid stuff. Anyway, so that's the deal with the CW. Expect full seasons of all your favorite CW shows, including Riverdale.
I'd say go watch Arrow. Arrow's pretty good. I'd say out of all the superhero stuff they have, Arrow's the best.
Well, if I get time in this day and age, chances of me getting around to Arrow, it's going to be small, guys. I hate to say it.
What did I say? Did I say Arrow?
You said Arrow.
I don't mean. Gosh,
you meant The Flash.
No.
I've heard good things about.
I meant The Flash.
I've
meant
heard
The
good
Flash.
Things. I've heard it.
Yes. For some reason, I don't know. Yeah, definitely no. Flash is much better than Arrow.
Okay.
I think The Flash is the best thing that's on there. So.
Gotcha. All right.
Well, let's see here. Mandalorian Season 2.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. So, we know that Mandalorian Season 2 is coming later this year. We know that it's going to happen. News just broke that the actor Timothy Olyphant is going to be in the second season of The Mandalorian. Now, a lot of people may not recognize that name, but I guarantee if you saw Timothy Olyphant, you would know who he is.
Yeah.
If you've seen The Office, he plays the salesman Danny Cordray.
Oh my gosh.
For a point of reference.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of other stuff. I mean, he's been in movies and shows. Most recently, he's on the FX show Justified and plays a pretty big role. I really like Timothy Olyphant. I've enjoyed his acting in everything he's been in. So hearing that he's going to be joining, Tamora Morrison and Rosario Dawson and Katie Sackhoff and then all the rest of the originals, obviously Pedro Pascal. I'm excited for this. I mean, it's going to be coming sometime in the fall to Disney+. I just don't know if he's going to have a big role because if you recall, the character of Cara Dune, the ex-shock trooper for the Republic, you saw her on, Gina Carano is her name, right? You saw her on all of the marketing material for the season, the first season of The Mandalorian, and she shows up in like the third episode, and then you don't see her again till the very end. And I really thought she was going to have a much larger role. So Timothy Olyphant could show up and be kind of like Bill Burr was, the comedian who was in like one episode, and he could be a bad guy, he could be another bounty hunter. Like, we have no clue, obviously, and they're not going to let us know. But it is cool to know that they are pulling in bigger actors and actresses that have some serious acting chops, because I think people want to be a part of this.
They do. And that's a credit to what season 1 did. And how fun it was and how different it was, but still so Star Wars. You couldn't even, it just so Star Wars. But I've read in several places who he's playing.
Oh, you have?
I have. I've heard that he's playing Cobb Vanth, who is from a book series Basically, from what I read, and again, this is me just kind of shooting from the hip of something I read, and I'm looking at it again, but it's too long of an article for me to go through right now. But basically, he's like a sheriff on Tatooine who has come into the possession of Boba Fett's Mandalorian armor, and which makes some sense in that if we're going to see Boba Fett, you can almost expect Tatooine armor. Yeah. He's got it. We'll see. That's what I've read in several places as he's playing this character, this Tatooine kind of sheriffy guy who walks around in Mandalorian armor, but is obviously not a Mandalorian. Interesting. So we'll see. Could be true. Who the freak knows? But it makes some sense. That could be
just fan fiction. Who knows? Interesting. Who knows? Okay. Cool.
All right. So this is my last bit of news, and it pertains to Disney Plus. Another new TV show has been announced. It's a new Percy Jackson adaptation.
Oh, okay.
So it's like I think a 5-book series. And I know that they had a couple of movies, and I know that they didn't go over well. The fans didn't love it. Even the author didn't love it. So fans have been clamoring for them to redo it. And I think what's happened is they said, well, we just can't do it in movies. Let's do it in a TV show. So we're getting a Disney Plus adaptation of Percy Jackson, which is great. Here's the deal. More content for Disney Plus is always good because it's low on content, original content. They need more shows. I know it's going to take them a little while to get their feet kind of underneath them. Just like Netflix, it was a slow burn. Now it's like, holy crap, every week there's like 6 new Netflix shows. So Disney Plus, it's good to see them continuing to kind of one foot in front of the other with this original content, stuff that people want to see, but that Percy Jackson is, family friendly as well. So it fits their brand well. So we'll see how it pans out. Hopefully it's better for the fans of the book series. I think my wife might have read them. I don't know. I haven't asked her.
I like all things pertaining to like Greek mythology, like movies about Greek mythology and stories about that and this, that, and the other. Like I love that stuff. It's very interesting to me. And I didn't know that the Percy Jackson movies were based off that. I just kind of thought they were some like, some kid has some sort of superhero. It's kind of meant to be kind of a preteen superhero type story.
Yeah.
And I saw something about this last week and I realized, he's supposed to be like Perseus. And this is kind of supposed to be based off all this Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm intrigued enough that I probably will take a look at it when it comes to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But because I love that stuff so much, I'm kind of intrigued enough that I may consider going and reading the books and maybe even watching the 2 movies that they made just to kind of see what they've done with it because I just enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I'm just kind of learning about it as I've come to understand this is coming to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Reading about it, and I don't know if it's getting a second life. There's a rabid fan base, and most things with a rabid fan base have got something that most people attach to, and we just haven't discovered yet. So I think you and I were a bit old for this book series when they came out. I think we were kind of beyond what was happening there, and it's not my forte to go read crap.
Honestly, I felt like I was well beyond the Hunger Games stuff that was written.
Yeah.
And I read that, and I was right. I mean, I
you were right.
Let's make
by
no
the third
bones
book,
about it.
You were right.
Yeah,
I really like the first and second books. I'm not gonna lie. Even at my 30s, I still like it.
I like the idea. I like the concept. I was never a big fan of the execution in those books. There was too many writing shortcuts that just drove me up the wall. Ooh, something really exciting's about to happen. and they get knocked out, and let's find out what happens in kind of a flashback from someone else's perspective, because our main character was actually knocked out of the action.
Yeah.
That can't happen more than once or twice in a whole series. Not every freaking chapter.
Sure.
People. Come on.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I digress. That series. Anyway, it was kind of like that time, what was that? Like 2008, 2009, when those books and whatnot are really kind of getting a resurgence. Everyone's like, it's great. I'm like, I read it. I was like, yeah, okay. And then everyone's like, you should go read the Divergent book and Insurgent and whatever. And I read those and I was like, this is even worse.
Yeah.
Like, everyone started like suggesting the next thing. And that was like right also like around the time when I think Twilight came out. And someone's like, you should try Twilight. I was like, what is it about? They're like, it's about these sparkly vampires, the teen romance. And I went, stop. No, I'm drawing the line.
Right.
And I drew the line. I've never seen a minute of any of those movies. I've never read a word in those books because I kind of just went like, ugh. But if I know something is meant for kids and not like, hey, it's really meant for like, preteens, but we're trying to sell it to adults as well, I go into something reading it a little differently. All those other books I just mentioned were really written for preteens, and they tried telling you like, this is the next big thing, like this is the next Lord of the Rings, it's the Hunger Games, and I'm like, no, not even close. But maybe I'm just a big old jerk. Who knows?
Maybe. We don't know because we've never read Percy Jackson, so who knows?
I know. You never know. But if you wanted to watch the Percy Jackson movies and you wanted to watch them with friends or family, there might be a way to do such a thing, Matt.
Oh.
So a little while ago, we talked about the idea that there was this Chrome plugin called, I think, Scener, that would allow you to log in, send a code to friends and family. They could all log in as well, and you could stream something from Netflix and watch it all together. And it puts the movie kind of in the left 3/4 of your screen and gives you a chat window so you can, you can send messages back and forth and you can kind of be talking during the movie, which frankly, I hate it when people talk during movies in the movie theater. And so this to me would just be a distraction from a movie experience. Now, maybe if I'd already seen the movie, maybe it'd be different. But anyway, this app has been seeing a huge uptick in popularity because it works with Netflix, but Netflix doesn't sponsor it. It's not like an official app. HBO is getting in on the game. HBO Now and HBO Go now officially work with the Scener Chrome extension that you can use. HBO's partnered with them to make sure that everything on HBO Now and HBO Go will work. So HBO is kind of saying like, hey, we're going to lead the charge in this whole idea of like watching stuff together and streaming something at the same time so that you can have this shared experience while you're stuck at home or away from your family. And on a human level, I kind of get that, right? Like when you go to a movie theater and you go with friends or family, you are sitting in a theater, you are having a shared experience, you're watching the same thing, and then usually you maybe talk after that, right? You go get a slice of pie, go get a cup of coffee, go somewhere, do something, go get something to eat, and talk about what you just saw. This was a great movie because of this. This was a great movie because of that, or I didn't like it because of whatever, right? And now you can do that from your house, and you can use this extension for Netflix unofficially, and HBO Go, HBO Now officially. The people behind Scener said that they've seen usage of this jump up by 15 times the normal amount of usage that they usually have. It works for Windows, Mac, Chromebook devices. You can have up to 20 people on video chat at once while watching this. But if you don't have the video chat, I guess they're going to roll out support for even larger viewing parties. So maybe, in the coming days you could host like 50 of your friends and you could all watch something or whatever.
Right.
I don't know that I would necessarily do this, but I'm kind of also thinking that maybe we should try this with our in-laws, because they do like to try to get together every now and again and find something new to do.
Yep.
It would be kind of cool to say, hey, why don't we all try this thing and use this Chrome extension and watch some sort of movie together?
I agree. There's certainly some fun things about this. I think there's still some drawbacks. I don't know, the chat thing and having to watch it on your computer. If they found a way to invite and it could go to your freaking TV, then count me in.
Right.
I'm still annoyed about that, but I think it's cool. I think that is kind of the way of the future. I mean, I don't live anywhere near any family anymore. They're all gone.
Right, yeah.
And that was always
Mama
kind of
Shaw
the
can't watch a movie with you.
That's right. Not that she ever did when she was here anyway. But speaking of movies, I do have to just make this plug. I contributed to the video on demand release of Scoob. I forgot to mention that in my weekly thing because you did Trolls World Tour and we did Scoob.
Yes.
I just bought it. I was like, for $5 extra, might as well just own it.
Oh, they gave you that option.
Yeah, so I could rent it for $20 or buy it for $25, and I was like, well, Emmy's gonna like this. I already know that.
You're gonna watch it again.
Yeah. Anyway, so I contributed. So yay economy. You're welcome,
Nice.
movie theaters. I hope you're scared of me as a consumer leaving and abandoning you, because I will.
I wish that was an option when Trolls World Tour came out, because I would have bought it right there for $25 instead of renting it for $20, and then we're gonna end up buying it again for
You're
another
gonna buy
$20.
it anyway. Yep. That was nice of them to do. When I saw that option, I was like, oh yeah. And it was a fun movie, by the way. Fun, colorful, silly. Liked it.
Really?
Yep.
My kids are gonna want to see it.
It's good. It's got Ken Jeong in it.
Well, you know,
Zac
you know I'm in.
Efron too. Amanda Seyfried or whatever her name is.
I'm
there's
back in
there's a bunch of interesting people.
I like
Anyway,
Amanda Seyfried or Seyfried or whatever it is. But Ken Jeong, you had me at Ken Jeong.
good.
You should
And
just
Mark
stop right there.
Wahlberg
Yeah, we're okay. Still.
in an interesting role. Just you'll got to watch it. It's fun.
He's the old guy that's got the mask on, and he gets unmasked and says, "I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for you stinking kids."
Maybe.
Nice.
I won't ruin it.
All right. Well, even if you did, I wouldn't have remembered it by the time we got around to watching it.
That's probably true.
Let's be honest. My kids have been trying to get me to watch some movie called The Willoughbys on Netflix with them.
Yeah.
And the other day we were watching it again for the third time. And Brita was actually watching it with the kids, and she asked me a question, or was laughing. She's like, what did you think of that or something? I looked at her, and I pulled my head up from my phone. I looked at her like, this movie been on for an hour. I said, I'm not paying attention to this. I haven't heard a word of that. The kids are just like dancing and singing. It's something like they didn't catch any of this. But I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm here because I'm trying to be a good dad, and the kids wanted me in the room to watch it. But like, I have no interest. None. I'm like, I would much rather be playing a video game or watching something I want to watch, or reading the kids a book that I want them to absorb and get indoctrinated with, Lord of the Rings. Something, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't care for the Willoughbys. And I bet you Scoob is going to be the same thing. Like, I'll catch bits and pieces here and there, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it.
Right. I get it. It.
I'm an old man, and I'm not going to change my ways. Anyway. That was the last thing I had, Matt, too. I'm out as well.
Nice.
So last week, Matt, you and I had a conversation. We kind of kept the love going after Mother's Day for almost another week. And we asked our super friends who is their favorite or best TV mom. And we got some answers. So let's roll on over to email where we always start. fordofnerd@gmail.com. We've got Peter Christensen. And Peter says, Dear Nerds, I would be up for another Pirates of the Caribbean with Karen Gillan as the lead. I just hope it would feature some modern Disney tight writing and editing, and not the anti-magic that the CGI remakes have. I claim that Inception is indeed part of a franchise, the Christopher Nolan franchise. His brand and track record as a director have earned him 200 million budgets, and every film he releases is an event. You could say the same about James Cameron, although his brand could be subsumed by Avatar within the past 10 years of his sequels. I'm going to disagree. I don't think a director makes a franchise based off like a number of different properties, right? Like Christopher Nolan did he do like 1917, that movie 1917?
No.
What else? No, he did it's a war movie. It's not
Dunkirk?
Hacksaw.
Did he do Dunkirk?
Yes. He did Dunkirk. He also did Inception. Those two things are not part of the same franchise. They're completely different.
Right.
Now, that's like saying that M. Night Shyamalan, all his movies are part of a franchise.
Right.
They're not. Now, if you do the Glass, Split and Unbreakable, those are part of a franchise that all tie together and are the same thing. But the Signs is not in the same world as some of the other stuff. Anyway, I digress. But he does go on to say, if you let the people vote on film awards, enjoy watching Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson get Best Actor every year. And then he says, I typed this 5 seconds before you said it. Because it is true.
Yeah.
It is absolutely true. Like, it would be The Rock. When you mentioned TV moms, I got a mental block after 3. Peg Bundy, Marge Simpson, and Tammy Taylor. Peg Bundy from Married with Children, not a good mom, a primordial Lucille Bluth. Marge Simpson is a great mom who just isn't getting any breaks from life, her husband, or children. She's the most realistic person in that show. Finally, the Queen, Tammy Taylor from Friday Night Lights. Anyone who wants to know what it takes to keep a marriage happy, watch the episode where she puts on a last-minute barbecue with a smile on her face and then chews her husband out later. I wrote that 5 seconds before you mentioned it. He says, if Marge is the realistic mother, Tammy is the aspirational mother that anyone could learn from in any part of their life. Honorable movie mom mention to Helen Parr, a.k.a. Elastigirl in The Incredibles, for many of the same reasons as Tammy Taylor. Happy Mother's Day, nerds. Cheers, Peter Christensen.
Thanks, Peter.
Yep.
Very nice.
I like it, and I like the fact that his calls would have been our calls right about the same time as he's typing and listening at the same time. I like it. We didn't have any on Facebook, so let's jump over to Twitter. We've got Bernabe Butters at Dantes_Belmont. He says, according to the wife, the mom in Netflix's The Ranch is pretty cool. One that always cracks me up is the mom in Disney Channel's Good Luck Charlie. I've seen The Ranch. I know the mom in The Ranch. She's definitely very understanding of her children's lifestyle choices and just, is willing to roll with whatever. I don't know that I've seen Disney Channel's Good Luck Charlie. Have you seen that, Matt?
No, I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
It looks like a Disney Channel show.
Yeah, it's a Disney Channel show for
That's
sure.
all I'm. It looks Disney Channel through and through. I'm sure it's appealing to people.
Yes, but why podcast at YBY Podcast just sent a GIF. Matter of fact, every answer on Twitter was GIFs of.
Okay.
It was GIFs of the moms, and it's Lucille Bluth.
Of course.
Yeah, and she's like, "Are we having fun?" Yeah, Lucille Bluth. She's an amazing mom for all the wrong reasons.
Good. Well, they all lived, so.
Yep. Just in time with the JNT baggers at JNT Podcast, and it's a GIF of the mom from That 70s Show, Kitty Foreman, laughing. And laughing hysterically.
Oh my god!
Did you ever watch that 70s show?
Yeah, kind of. It was one of those shows that I kind of came in and out of. I never really watched it as it was a series. if that makes sense. It would seem like one of those shows I could pop in and pop out at like random times in my life, and that's what I did. So I know the characters, and I know who they're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. I've never actually seen that show.
I think you'd like it.
I think so too, but I just remember like it was on, and it was, you know how like you have a certain threshold of like, I can only watch this many shows and balance it with the other things I've got to go in my life. And then you see something, you're like, that looks good, but I don't have time to slot something in above other stuff. Yeah. That was that show for me always. It was kind of like, ooh, that looks like that could be funny, but never got around to it. It
reminds me of sort of like a CBS show in that you can have it on and be doing something else at the same time and not miss anything. It's a simple comedy.
Gotcha. Robin Lynn at What Would TB12 Do sent a gif of Edith Bunker from All in the Family. That's a very old show.
Yeah. Did not watch that ever.
But I have seen some episodes of that on and off. And Edith Bunker is Robin Lynn's favorite / best TV mom.
Nice.
Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers on who you thought were the best TV moms or favorite TV moms. It was kind of nice to kind of do that for Mother's Day and kind of, continue to talk about moms during that time. So, but now that Mother's Day is over, we're going to keep this party rolling. Matt, our Super Friends are helping us out week in and week out. They show up, they listen to the podcast, they answer questions. What can they do for us this week?
So this week, do what you always do. Participate in life by listening to this super informative, exciting, exhilarating podcast. Share it with your friends. Do what you always do. And then in addition to that, this week, what I want you to do is inspired by a movie that I watched called Scoob. Go back and watch some classic Scooby-Doo. If you can. I'm sure they're out there somewhere on the internets and the interwebs. There's a way that you can watch some classic Scooby-Doo. Brush up on your Scooby-Doo and then go watch Scoob, and you'll smile at some of the little nods and hints that they have in there that they definitely put in there for older people or
Fan
people
service.
Who watched. There was a lot of that. Obviously, Emmy didn't care, but I was watching it, and Jessie didn't know some of it too.
Emmy's 3, she's gonna know.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, if you watch a lot of those cartoons from kind of back in 60s, some of the Hanna whatever
the Hanna-Barbera,
which I watched a lot of those, and I don't know why. Thanks, Mom and Dad? ? It all paid off when I watched Scoob, and I got some of the references. So
nice.
Congrats. But anyway, It's fun. Scooby-Doo is so fun. I forgot how great of a franchise that is and how fun it is for kids, and something I'd love to watch with Emmy more.
I always find Scooby-Doo's silly, but in a just a pleasant way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's silly. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's meant to be silly. You just kind of kick back, relax, and have a good time. Or just kick back, relax, and look at your smartphone and ignore the movie that your kids are watching. Not that I do that, Willoughby's.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Matt, you and I were having a discussion literally a couple of hours before we were going to record.
Yeah.
We were talking about some of the ideas we have for some upcoming podcasts, and we had an idea for something we thought we were going to try to do tonight, but we've decided that we want to do that a little bit later because we want to do something a little different for that. And so we kind of punted that idea, and we were kind of discussing, and I kind of came across this idea that we haven't done this in a little while. Every now and again here on the podcast, we kind of just take a break from having a discussion based on something that's happening right now or a movie club or whatever. And we just kind of bring it back to say, okay, let's just talk about ourselves a little bit as it pertains to kind of the vein of what this podcast is, things we're into. And I said, we may want to do this idea, which is you pick 3 questions to ask me, and I'll pick 3 questions to ask you. And we'll just kind of have conversations based off these kind of questions, these little like mini topics. But it gives us a chance to like further kind of talk about our kind of nerd and pop culture influences, or how it shaped our lives or whatever, or things we're just interested in, or things we want to know more about, and kind of have these like little mini topics. And so I thought it was a good idea. You seemed to like the idea. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And I think this will be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I want to ask you, I'll start off and I'll ask you my first question. And this maybe is the most obvious, like this seems to me like this could be like one of the most obvious questions, maybe one of the easiest questions.
Okay, good.
It could be a softball, but at the same time, maybe not.
Okay.
What is your top 3 movie franchises?
Okay.
So movie franchises. So I'm not just talking about like, what's your favorite movie? Because that would be a ridiculously hard question. But like,
of course,
what are your like top 3 movie franchises? Like, what do you love about them?
Yeah.
You know, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll answer my own question, obviously, is the give
so
and
there's
take.
some easy, there's the, yeah, this is easy. You're right. There are, it's clearly Star Wars.
Sure.
Being my favorite franchise. Probably my favorite franchise. I'm not ranking them. These are just the top 3.
Sure, yep.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. Far and away, those are my favorite franchises. Definitely. And I'm glad I don't have to rank them, because I might have a heart attack and feel like I'm betraying one or the other and probably throw up after the podcast feeling so guilty.
Yep.
But those are the top 3, and that's just off the top of my head. And you know, there's others that come to mind. I really like the Christopher Nolan Batman series a lot, but that's not going to crack in front of those other franchises. So those are my favorite movie franchises that came to my mind first.
Gosh, do you think Peter Christensen was talking about the Christopher Nolan Batman movies when he was talking about a franchise, or do you think he was just talking about Christopher Nolan?
I think he was doing all
movies?
Of Christopher Nolan, because he is similar sort of in the way that he does movies. But anyway, we're not here talking about Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, but that's kind of the same thing as like, what's his face? Timothy Burton.
Wes Anderson's like that too.
Yeah, Wes Anderson, Timothy Burton. Like they've got a feel that's all kind of... Okay,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Peter will definitely fill me in on exactly what he was thinking next week. And I look forward to hearing from him. So I was kind of thinking about this same idea. No, obviously Star Wars is my number 1. Like that, like I don't have to actually I can go 1, 2, 3 and I can number them even.
Okay.
Star Wars is number 1 for me. I was introduced to Star Wars at a very, very young age. And just the whole idea of, you know, this good force versus this bad force, you know, in the universe. You know, it played into, you know, established storylines that a young kid would understand. You know, good versus bad. And it had cool flying ships, and it was in outer space. And there was just everything to love about Star Wars. You know, cool names and cool aliens. And it shaped me so much that, like, I've had nicknames based off Star Wars things. I've had... You know, every single vehicle for years up until recently had some sort of Star Wars character in them or sticker on them. You know, I've got so many Star Wars toys, memorabilia, collectibles that I've collected since I was a young kid. So Star Wars is my number 1 movie franchise of all time. Number 2 is Lord of the Rings. That's easy also for me. Because even though it's come out later in my life, I was in my early 20s when it came out, the book series had been so influential in my preteen and teenage years on me, and I'd loved it so much for years to see that come onto film, and I've talked about this before. It's the best fantasy I've ever seen on film. So that's my number 2. My number 3 is actually Star Trek. I love Star Trek. And even, you got to remember, because we're talking, 6 movies with the original cast, then there's the crossover movie, and then there was, 2-3 movies with the Next Generation cast, and then the reboot movies and the Kelvin timeline. I love Star Trek. It's, once again, it's outer space, it's exploration, but it's different than Star Wars in, the fact that their goals and their aims and their society and their world, are different. The Federation's, got this idealistic utopian kind of outlook of, we're trying to better ourselves through science and technology and, raise up, societies to be better than they were. Anyway, I love Star Trek. I love it wholeheartedly. Yeah. So I'm not one of those guys that like, Star Wars or Star Trek, you got to pick one, like, fight it out and, have meaningless, kind of, I don't know.
Right.
Discussions about it. But those are my top 3. Now there's a lot of other stuff. Like I could say, like the Harry Potters I really enjoy. They'd be in my top 10, not my top 3. But like Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, like these are movie franchises
those are great.
That would be up there for me as well. But yeah, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek in that order. Boom, boom, boom.
Nice. All right. You even ordered them.
Yep.
All right. My first question to you is not easy. I don't think it will be easy.
Okay.
You're going to have to go back in time. What is the first movie that you remember purchasing yourself with your own money?
Easy. No, this is easy
good.
for me.
Okay, good.
1989's Batman.
Oh, really?
Yep. I saved it. So this was at a time, so this was on VHS. This was at a time when, I mean, you got to remember, you got to go back for those of us that are a little older and that can remember this. And if you're younger and you're listening to this podcast, you may not have ever experienced this, because right now, for the last 10 years, 11 years actually, 2009 when Iron Man came out, we're in this like golden age of comic book movies where it's cool to be a nerd. It's cool to be into comic books and comic book movies, and everyone knows superheroes and has this. But you go back to 1989, this was not the case back then. It was not the heyday of that. I mean, The Incredible Hulk had gone off TV a few years earlier. Back in the 70s, there had been like a Spider-Man TV show and Wonder Woman in the 70s. They were trying to kind of do stuff, but it wasn't really getting mass appeal. It was very limited to people that were into those sorts of things. And the previous Batman that had been in anyone's mind on film had been the late 1960s, like the 1966 Adam West, Burt Ward Batman television show, which was really campy and goofy. So in 1989, when the Jack Nicholson Joker Batman and Michael Keaton Batman movie came out, this is a Tim Burton movie, when this came out, it was huge. It was big. And McDonald's had this huge tie-in and this huge marketing with it. I mean, they did for a number of the Batman films of kind of that era. But they had this big tie-in where you could go down to a McDonald's and you could buy a VHS of Batman and get the movie. And it had a Looney Tunes commercial, a Looney Tunes cartoon before the beginning of the movie, and it also had like the McDonald's logo on the box art. It was small, but it had it on it.
Interesting. Okay.
And I remember saving up money. I had a paper route, and I went down to McDonald's with my family, and I bought that VHS, and it was the first VHS I had ever bought. And I was so excited to have it and to do that. I mean, I was 10 years old. And I spent my own money, and I bought Batman. That was the first movie I ever bought.
Wow.
What about you?
Wow.
What was your
You've
first
got like
movie?
stories. Your stories, your like answers are 20 times longer than mine. Mine are like so simple. What's the first movie I remember buying? That Thing You Do is the first movie that I remember buying. And
That's like late 90s, right? The
yes, with Tom Hanks.
with the Wonders, the Oneaters.
Yes,
that
the
movie? Okay.
Oneaters. I freaking loved that movie. And I bought this sometime in college. I never bought any movies in high school. My parents we just either had the movie or we didn't. And if it was a big movie, we had it.
Yeah.
So that was that. And the only time I remember, that was the very first movie that I remember buying in college, thinking, I don't have access to this movie. I couldn't steal this from my parents because they didn't have it at all. And I really, really wanted to watch it. So I bought it. And I just, there's something that I like movies. I mean, there's a lot of different movies that I like in different styles and types and all of that. But this movie is just like a nice warm blanket for me. It just, it like Father of the Bride, it just makes me feel like everything's going to be okay. And that when conflict arises, like I can be okay and happy music can get me through it. But I don't know. I don't know why that was the movie. You know, I wish I was cool and could say like Batman or Lord of the Rings or something, but no, it was That Thing You Do. That's the first movie I remember buying. And it probably isn't the first movie I bought, but it's the first movie I remember.
I don't remember that movie very well, but I do remember that the song from that movie was an earworm song. Like you get it in your brain.
So good.
And it's
so good.
And you just can't get it out. And my mom is very susceptible to those kind of songs. So sometimes I'll be over at her house and I'll just bust that song out, like maybe like once every 6 months, once every year. And she literally will call me up weeks later and say like, I'm still singing that dang song. I can't get it out of my head. And I was like,
that's
don't
awesome.
you know the trick? You got to listen to it all the way through.
Yeah.
At least that's what they tell me.
That's what I've heard.
I can actually add on to yours and say, I also remember the first DVD that I bought specifically.
Oh my goodness.
This was in college, and I'd taken like a Pell Grant loan out to pay for like my tuition, and I had just a little over $200 left. And so I remember saying to my roommates, I said, I'm going to go down to Walmart and I'm going to buy a DVD player and I'm going to get, a DVD or two and we can watch movies in DVD because it'll be so much better than
right.
VHS. And we had this little, and I'm like 21, 22 at the time. We had this little like 18-year-old roommate who just barely graduated high school. And he's like, well, if you get any movies, don't buy Charlie's Angels because that movie is nothing like the original TV show from the 70s. It's just an excuse for a bunch of girls to be running around in bikinis.
Right. I
bought a DVD player and I bought Charlie's Angels, and that was the first DVD because I was like, wait a minute.
Boy.
Girls running around in bikinis the whole time? I was like,
sounds fun.
Why are you complaining about this thing?
Right.
We came back and he looked at me and he was just so disgusted with me.
That's so
And of course,
funny.
I just laughed maniacally till I was in tears, I think, for like 2 days. But that was the first DVD I bought.
Awesome.
Anyway. Okay, Matt. This is a little harder. Who from like pop culture, nerd culture, whatever, who in that realm was your childhood hero?
Character or real life person?
Either one. This is get to know you a little bit more.
To me, this is again pretty easy.
Really?
But it's a character. This is not an individual. Because when you're growing up, I'm not thinking about actors and actresses.
Sure.
I'm thinking about the character. And I don't particularly like this person as a person. I'll say it. However, my hero. Easy. It was always Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
From the first thing that I can remember, I just love Luke. And I still love Luke. I want to be cool and love Han Solo, and I do love Han Solo. And I want to be like, yeah, man, like that's so me. But I'm so much more like Luke than I am Han, at least in my own mind.
Right.
I'm more like Luke than I am like Han. A little bit complainy at times. And anyway, so it was always Luke Skywalker for me. And it probably still is, to be completely honest. I mean, I've got in the entrance right when you go into my office, it's that I've got this cool art that I got on Etsy that's framed, and it's Luke Skywalker, and it's I am a Jedi like my father before me. And yeah. I just feel that. And I wanted to be a hero like him. I wanted to be a hero like Luke. Always wanted to be like Luke.
The little nursery room we set up for Charlie right before he was born. We got these little like toy lightsabers you could mount to the wall and turn them on as a nightlight, and then after like 15 minutes they would turn off. But of course they made the snap hiss sound when they turned on and when they turned off. And in vinyl above the, like, we got these like this big huge vinyl of the Millennium Falcon and a big huge vinyl of an X-Wing that we had up on the walls. And then in vinyl we had the quote, "I am a Jedi like my father before me." And that was like right above his crib. And I remember, and like, you know, we had like, I don't know, Star Wars bumpers, you know, like the little bumper pads you put around the crib and all that. Like, his room was nothing but Star Wars. And I remember just being so proud as a dad to be, thinking, my son's going to love Star Wars just like me.
Yeah.
Funny enough, though, Luke Skywalker was not my childhood hero. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying the character this person played was my childhood hero. The person in real life is not a decent person. Like, is not my childhood hero.
Not a decent person. Mark Hamill's a decent person.
Yes.
I don't particularly like him. But...
Definitely, Mark Hamill is. Hulk Hogan was my childhood hero. I wanted
that
to
makes
be
total sense.
Hulk Hogan. Now, Terry Bollea, the man that portrays Hulk Hogan, not a great person in real life.
Oh my gosh.
Not at all.
No.
But
no.
The character in the 1980s that he played, I mean, wrestling, the WWF at that time was huge. It was everywhere. It was this big marketing machine. You couldn't turn a corner and see anything, you know, you couldn't turn a corner and not see wrestling or wrestling toys or stuffed animals, you know, that you could wrestle with. And Hulk Hogan was the poster boy of the WWF. He was the world champion. They kept the belt on him like for pretty much all of the 80s, after he won it in 85 up through like the early 90s, because the champion, the guy that holds the belt, he's the main event. He's the main draw. And Hulk Hogan was this big, blonde-haired, muscle-bound, wrestler. But his whole shtick was, you know, say your prayers, exercise, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins. And he was, he was really good to kids. He was always trying to encourage kids to like exercise and get out and be more than you can be, brother. And, you know, it was kind of that whole thing. It's kind of the Superman effect in a way. You know, Superman stands for truth, justice, and the American way. And in the 80s, that was, you know, Hulk Hogan was kind of the wrestling Superman. He kind of, you know, had that ideal kind of behind him. And as a kid, I gobbled that up. I just gobbled that up. And I was like, wow, you know, wrestling was huge, but here's this larger than life personality. And he knows that I can be better than I am, and he's encouraging me to train and exercise to get healthy and take vitamins and to say my prayers so that I'm, you know, both balanced physically and spiritually. Like, I bought into it wholeheartedly. And then I got a little older. I realized wrestling wasn't real, that while yes, the physicality is real, all the storylines and all the things kind of going on are all contrived. And then, you know, the tarnish, the luster was off a little bit, and you saw cracks in the armor. And, you know, somewhere in the mid-90s, I realized Hulk Hogan wasn't exactly the guy that I wanted to have as my childhood hero anymore, someone to look up to, and things changed in an appropriate way. But man, when I was a kid, when I was about 6 years old, I wanted to be Hulk Hogan when I grew up. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. Like, that's what I wanted to do with my life.
That's awesome.
Thankfully, things changed.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. All right. So my next question is location specific for you.
Okay.
But mine is, what's your favorite movie or TV show to take place in Chicago?
Ooh.
Or at least kind of a majority of it, or talks about it.
Gosh. See, this is hard. Movie or TV show? Movies are coming to mind right now.
Okay.
So, like, I can think of, like, obviously, like, Home Alone. Anything John Hughes, like with Chicago, like, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles. Like, John Hughes based all his stuff out of Chicago. So that's all really etched into my memory. The Blues Brothers is a massive spot in my memory of a movie that's filmed in Chicago, about Chicago, all around the city. Oh, and I'm trying to think of like TV shows that are kind of in and around Chicago. I mean, ER was huge in the 90s. I know there's been like a bunch of other stuff, like, Chicago Fire and Chicago I've never watched any of that kind of stuff.
Right. So either way, it doesn't need to be a TV show and a movie. Just either one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to...
Just your favorite one.
I'd probably say the Blues Brothers.
Okay.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Oh, that's... Man. Okay, Matt, that's actually a really hard question for me. So, like, Home Alone, yeah, it's in Chicago, but The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, like that kind of stuff. But I'd say there's two. I mean, gosh, let me talk this out and maybe I'll get to one, but there's two. Okay. The Blues Brothers is huge in Chicago. I mean, blues music in general is massive in Chicago. I mean, you're going to find some of the best blues musicians anywhere in the world. They're going to be in Chicago. It filmed all over the city. It was about these musicians that were trying to put on a gig to save an orphanage in this city. And of course, it's John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. And it's comedy, it's music. It's basically like a musical almost, more than anything. And it's just superb. I can watch that movie over and over and over again. Them trashing them all in a cop car, former cop car in the suburbs. Wonderful. But then again, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, kind of the same thing. I mean, they've got a parade in downtown Chicago and they go to the art museum there, and it's just, like they just have this huge trip and huge adventure, and it's John Hughes and it's the 80s and it's those two. I'm not going to be able to pick.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
That hurts. That one hurts because I'm trying to objectively say, like, which one do I like better, and it's like I've seen both of them a couple hundred times.
Sure.
I don't know. Do you have any...
You don't have to choose.
Do you have any movies or TV shows in the Chicago area that you like more than one versus the other?
I'm learning as you're saying these things. I don't know anything about Chicago. I ain't never been. I don't know anything about anything north of, like, Texas, to be completely honest.
Have you seen either of those two movies, though?
Yeah, no. Yeah, of course. Of course I have. Okay. I've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I've seen all those John Hughes movies. But definitely my favorite is Home Alone. Far and away, not even close. I love Home Alone more than I love most movies. Definitely in my top probably 15 movies of all time. I really, really love Home Alone.
Have you seen Blues Brothers?
No,
if not,
I've not
you should
seen
go watch
Blues
that.
Brothers. I will. I will see if there's a way that I can watch it. Of course, it's 2020. I'm sure there's a way I can watch it.
It's 2020, man. You don't watch the sequel that was done years after John Belushi's death.
No.
I've never watched it.
I wouldn't have done it anyway.
Don't ever touch it.
But that one's definitely my favorite Chicago movie. But Home Alone, I don't know everything that took place in Chicago.
Gotcha.
I didn't really know.
Gotcha. Okay, here's my last question for you. Do you enjoy when in fandoms the question comes up like, who would win in this scenario? Like, who would win in a fight? If someone says like, who would win in a fight between the Incredible Hulk versus the Thing, or Spider-Man and Iron Man?
Right.
Pick a thing. Do you actually enjoy those conversations?
I don't participate in a lot of them because I only talk to my wife, which makes it difficult. I will say this, though. I love hypothetical situations. So, yes, I like those kinds of queries when they are thrown at me, and I think very deeply about them and come up with reasons to defend my argument. So, yes, I do enjoy those kinds of questions. Mm-hmm. I can imagine myself enjoying a question like that.
Right,
and
like
I don't know about like
Hulk and Thor.
Yes, I do. I think that it's. I don't know that I care. I will say this. I don't know that I care what the answer is.
Okay.
I just like diving into hypothetical situations. And a hypothetical fight sounds really fun.
So this is a conversation that like has been going on since like the 1960s era of like, especially like Stan Lee Marvel comics, right?
Right. And
when I was younger, I felt like I really liked these conversations a lot more because I would, like you were saying, like I would try to like come up with like logical reasons for why whatever side I picked would win over the other. Like,
right.
Min-maxing like, okay, well, he has this, which is going to counterbalance this. So that's kind of a push and, and trying to like figure that all out. But as I've gotten older, I find that question can sometimes, like, people can get too into it and it becomes not fun and it becomes divisive and it can become toxic and people can take things way too seriously and to the point where like they're arguing and, you calling each other names because the other person disagrees with them. So like, I don't like that side of it. But what I do find interesting is before Stan Lee died, he came to Salt Lake for, at the time, it was called Salt Lake Comic-Con. Not Fan X, but Salt Lake Comic-Con. And he came and someone asked him who wins in this fight, Incredible Hulk or Thor type of thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And Stan Lee says, it all depends on who's writing the comic.
Right.
It all depends on whose comic book we're in. It all depends on where the story is kind of going. And he said, basically, we always wanted to leave that just vague enough that fans would always tune in because back in those days, it would be Thor is fighting against Ant-Man. Well, if one is super overpowered and the other one's not, there's no incentive for people to go out and buy that comic, pick it up and read it. So they would always have to try to make it ambiguous enough that it's believable that one could win out over the other or vice versa, so that you would go out and buy the comic and then figure out. And then, of course, if this is an Ant-Man comic and they're trying to tell a story and try to set up Ant-Man to do some big thing later down the road, they may make Ant-Man win, but they would make it in a way that left wiggle room for that conversation to happen.
Right.
And so, like, knowing all of this now as an adult and hearing, Stan the Man Lee say they wrote it that way so that it could be anyone or whatever, now I kind of come to the point where I'm like, does it really matter in the end? Because...
Of course not.
No. Yeah. But no, hypothetically, on like a entertainment side, I think I enjoy it. But when you get too deep down the rabbit hole and people get real serious with it, I'm kind of starting to check out in my old age, we'll say.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know any. I've never been asked any of those questions before.
Oh, yeah.
I never really was I never really had friends that were into that kind of a thing. So I never really was asked those questions. But I will ask this question as a follow-up to yours. And you can only give one. You can give the answer only. And it is, in Civil War, are you Team Iron Man or Team Captain America? No explanations. I know your brain is going and you want to give it. You want to give reasons for both, but you can only choose one. Okay, and I'm definitely Iron Man.
Yep.
Anyway,
I'm Team Cap there.
All right. So moving on, last question. Who are your current top 3 directors? And they have to be active in filmmaking now.
Okay.
With a movie that's come out in the last 2 years, let's say. 2, 3, 4 years. They're still doing stuff. I guess I don't need to put a time frame on it, but
I don't have to rank them. I just have to say who are in my top 3. Okay.
Who would be in your top 3?
The Russo brothers are in my top 3. I've loved them since they directed quite a bunch of Community, but with their run in the MCU, they're up there. Oh, I have this like love affair right now, kind of going with Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
Does this have to be movies only, or could it be like TV stuff?
I guess you can say TV too. Sure.
Okay, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
Oh man,
from The Mandalorian.
That's 2 people.
Okay, Dave Filoni.
The Russos are 2 people too. You have to choose Joe or Anthony. Just kidding. You can choose the Russo brothers. It's like the Duffer brothers. I don't know.
Right. So yeah, the Russos, because they work together, right? Like they, the Russos with the stuff they've done in the MCU, they're up there right now. I do have this love affair with Taika Waititi. I mean, I loved what he did with Thor Ragnarok, and I want to go. I've never seen what we do in the shadows. And it was a movie he did with, I think it's Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords about vampires. And I've heard all these great things. And I know that he did an episode of The Mandalorian. And I just really, everything that I've seen him do lately, or I've heard of, or interviews, like, I'm just really liking the stuff he's doing. And then, yeah. What did I say was my last one?
Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Yeah, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Because they managed to do something in the Star Wars universe that feels fresh, different, yet still feels like it fits in world. And then if I go back to Rebels and Clone Wars, which Clone Wars is recent because it just finished their last season.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni, I think, is the spiritual successor to George Lucas, to have really kind of a feel for the world. And I as much as J.J. Abrams, I know is well loved, he's not one of my favorites, and I don't like what he did with Star Wars. Same thing with Rian Johnson. But Dave Filoni, he's there. Now I've got others, but I would have loved to have said Steven Spielberg. But I don't know if Steven Spielberg... I mean, I think the most recent thing he directed was Ready Player One, and that's a few years back, so I didn't know if that would qualify. But, like, I've loved Steven Spielberg my entire life.
Right. Okay.
So he would have been in there, but I didn't know if he met the criteria from the last couple of years, so I'm going to keep him out of there. So.
Okay, good call.
What about you? Like, what are your kind of...
No, those are good.
3 favorite ones currently?
We share one. And that's Taika Waititi. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Yeah.
I love Taika. I've seen What We Do in the Shadows. It's amazing. It's hilarious. There's a TV show on FX. It's so great. Jojo Rabbit was incredible.
I haven't seen that one yet. That's on my list.
Oh, it's so good. Hunt for the Wilder People. Just he's hit home run after home run. Thor Ragnarok, probably my favorite Marvel movie. And then, of course, The Mandalorian, and now he's getting his own Star Wars movie. Right, Taika gets it for me. Like, I get him. And there's directors that I get, and there's ones that I don't, as it pertains to comedy, because Taika does comedy.
Yes.
But he does comedy in the same way that Community did comedy, that there's a heart to it. There's a reason behind the comedy, and there's a good story being told. And I always love directors who are able to... James Gunn does this as well, where they're able to make the humor work for a purpose. And Taika is just... He's one of the best storytellers out there, and he just makes me laugh. I get his comedy. And... kind of in juxtaposition with him, somebody I don't get that I hate is Wes Anderson. I don't get him. And there's people who love him and have a cult following and they get him. I don't get him. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of Taika can sometimes be that way. If you get him, it's amazing. If you don't get him, then you're not going to care much for it.
Yeah.
The other one, I'll save that one for last. Okay, so then the next one I would say is Tim Burton. We all know I like to dabble in the darkness, and Tim Burton dabbles in the darkness, man. I love Tim Burton. If I see him attached to any movie, I don't know it's going to be good, but I know that I'm going to like the tone, if that makes sense. Tim Burton's made some movies that I'm like, not that great, but I always enjoy the way it's shot.
Yeah, there's a certain aesthetic to the way he films his movies. I just like the way he does it, even if it's not a great movie. Even like the brightest movie that he's made, which I would venture to say is probably Big Fish, as his kind of like most emotional, brightest movie, it's still weird and creepy at times where you just know it's still Tim Burton doing weird crap. Yeah.
And then the last one is Rian Johnson. I saw Looper and I was hecka confused.
Looper's a good movie.
But man, it's so entertaining.
Yeah, Looper's
very
a
good. And then, of course, The Last Jedi, which we know that I love. And then most recently, Knives Out. He's another one where I feel like I kind of get it. I think we understand things in the storytelling and emotional way the same. And so I appreciate kind of what he does, which is what I look for in a director that I like, is like, do I get you or do I not? Christopher Nolan, I don't get, but I like some of his movies, but I don't get him. Yeah. Interstellar and Inception, like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But Rian Johnson's stuff, like I get where you're coming from. I get it. So those are my top three.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, I thought this was a lot of fun. There was harder questions than I thought, and then there were some ones that I thought were pretty easy. A good mix on both of our parts. But I'm going to take your question that you asked me, and I'm going to turn it around and ask the Super Friends. What was the first movie you bought with your own money? And so mine obviously was 1989's Tim Burton's Batman. Yeah. And Matt's was That Thing You Do, which was a Tom Hanks movie. I think under his Playtone label.
Yeah.
Did all that. But That Thing You Do, those were our movies. But Super Friends, we want to hear from you. What was the movie you bought for the first time with your own money? And we will read your answers next week. Well, Matt, I think it's time we wrap this up and get out of here for the week.
Sounds good.
Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there wherever you may be, may the Force be with you, always.